And we are back, legends. Welcome to LWO Radio. My name is Holla, and I am excited to be here. Wow. We are getting some feedback there, but that's okay. Welcome to LWO Radio. My name is Holla. This is episode 3, and we've got a big show for you today. I see all of the legends in the chat already. I hope you guys have been pre-funking, and I hope that you guys are in for a big show. Last week, phenomenal response to the episode with the champ, his big reveal that he is a 95% sit-down peer, which is amazing. You heard our introduction. That's the Nessmans, as is last week. This week, we've put the link down below to their SoundCloud. You can hop in there. You can click in there. You can listen to their whole album. It's awesome. Big thanks to the Nessmans for microphone. And of course, we've got beers in hand tonight, so make sure you've got a beer in hand. We're going to talk about that a little bit more after the introductions, because we've got some exciting stuff tonight for you. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to my co-host. You know him as Scotty Rimek. I know him as Scotty Rimek, but the law knows him as Danger McHatfield. Scotty, how are you? Welcome back to the show.
It's good to be here. I had some technical difficulties, so I might not last, but hey, we're back up and running at the last hour. Just so you know, it's spelt danger, but it's pronounced danger. It's a family name from my mother's side.
Is that German?
I don't know.
Oh,
sure.
Fantastic. You should go on the ancestry.com and throw in the danger and see what happens.
Do you think I want to learn anything more about my family? That scares the living tar off my nuts.
Sounds like quarantine's going well, Scotty.
It is. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. All right. And we have a couple of amazing guests here. We're moving on this week from the Salmon Arm origins, and we're going into Williams Lake and Bay's origins tonight. So who better than to speak about this than the man who I like to say is Mr. Tech himself, the computer genius that is wearing denim on your screen right now. That's right. I'm talking about the one and only Stanch. Stanch, you are on mute, so before you answer me, you're going to have to unmute yourself. Look at what a genius.
I knew that, of course.
How are you, Stanch? What's going on?
I'm doing well, Holla. Thanks, man. I'm quite happy to be here. This is a nice time.
You look like a cross between a biker and a legend.
This is pretty good, hey? And no clue he was hurt making this either.
I'm impressed with your skills, my friend. I'm impressed with your skills. You ready to talk about Williams Lake tonight?
Yeah, you want to see the back of this thing, or
show us the back. Come on. The legends are just primed.
I'm probably going to knock my computer over, though, trying to show you the back of this.
No, you're an IT genius.
Yeah. Is that even?
Oh, wow. Just hold it right there. Just hold it right there. Guys, now it's the time to hit screen cap that. That's what you want right there. Wow. Hey, pay attention later. We're going to talk about how you possibly could get something just like that for yourself. Ride around on your BMX bike all over BC, all over the world, as legends do, with the hockey cards flapping in the spokes. Amazing stuff. Benny, great to see you. Great to have you on the show.
I appreciate that. Thanks, 76er.
And a man who is no stranger to the internet, a man who lives in Alberta, I think. We didn't do a lot of research for this show. A man who looks like he might be in the Bay's WO locker room right now. A man who left half a tub of hummus in Scotty and Miner's room in Vernon a couple of years back. Of course, I'm talking about you, Lebs. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Holla. Yeah, recreated the locker room here and confirmed I am in Alberta.
What is the state of affairs in Alberta right now? I know we've got Poulos and Koski there as well. What's happening in Alberta? Is there anything specific that you can tell us about the COVID-19 pandemic in Alberta?
Nothing specific. I think Poulos would be the man on that. Not as good as BC, from what I can tell. And our snow just melted a couple weeks ago, so that was a big highlight for.
Of course it did. Of course it did. Yeah, that's a big highlight. Yeah. Well, it's the little things in life there, Lebsy. Anyways, great to have you on the show. Looking forward to telling some stories about the old Bays days. It's great to see the Bays jersey in the back. And true story that all 4 people on the panel tonight, including yours truly, did play for Bays at one point. So that's exciting stuff. Before we get into it, as you know, we do our episode dedication. And this week's episode is dedicated to another LWO legend that is in the medical field. We're talking about an amazing pianist. Say it with me, legends. Bremner, yep, you heard that right. A pianist, and also a guy who celebrated our birthday this week. We're talking, of course, about Dr. Brett Poulos. And Poulos, here's to you. Of course, you know, you gotta have a photo of a legend here. So here he is with our guests on tonight's episode. Dr. Poulos, Dr. Poulos, congratulations, kid. You made it through medical school, I think a couple times. I lost count, but thank you for everything. You are a legend. Here's to you, my friend.
Absolutely.
And one other thing, as we're talking about alcohol-related content, we're going to do something a little different this week, something a little bit of fun. We're going to have a bit of enjoyment as we go through LWO radio. You'll recall in episode 1, we were the first ever channel to do a live stuntman. Amazing stuff. Last week, first ever show to give away, to have a contest for one of the original scarves. And this week, in yet another episode of firsts, we are going to be doing live grab bag. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the concept, my dear friend here, Benny, with his Bays bag, is going to tell us a little bit more about grab bag and, of course, where it came from. Benny, over to you.
All right. Thanks, Holla. Well, that actually started, I believe it was on our very first Bays WO trip up to the beautiful city of Williams Lake. There it is. Perhaps the very first ever grab bag beer by the own gold specialist, Christian Provan. And look at that handsome kid beside him. Yeah, I believe we grabbed well, obviously we loaded up on a whole pile of beer, but Boston Bar, gorgeous town too. And Iron Horse, it was Iron Horse. I believe it changed to TNT after, but Iron Horse was the original. Mixed it in the cooler, grab bag. Lebs, you can hop in at some point and say what, if you remember the original bag, but it was just a total mix. And yeah, you pull out one of those Iron Horse, you pound it on the spot, and then you grab another beer. And if you pull out another Iron Horse, you pound it on the spot. And it keeps going. But eventually we had some good teamwork and guys stepped up to bail each other out. But yeah, Williams Lake trip 2002, I believe it was. Yeah, Lebs, you remember what bag it was or anything like that?
Yeah, it's good you're using your Bays WO bag, because I believe it was Kelly Sherman's spare soccer bag. That was my recollection. And yep. I think in honor of that trip, I think, Benny, you picked up some Iron Horse today.
You know what, Lebs?
How's this going to work, boys? How intoxicated are we going to be by the end of the episode here?
Well, I'm not going to cheat, so Lebs might get drunk, but we're going to be fine.
So the concept's really simple. When any one of the 4 of us needs a beer, we've got to announce it. Benny, you're going to reach into the grab bag and tell us whether we're pounding a beer or not, right?
Yep. You know what? Well, I'll pull it out, beer, and we'll see what it is and go from there.
All right. And if you're watching this and you're from YouTube, exact, we are not condoning alcohol consumption on the air, unless, of course, you're. we are.
Nobody can tell it's real beer.
You know, if this video disappears after 24 hours, we all know what happened. So thanks for letting that cat out of the bag. We'll be looking forward to some grab bag throughout the episode. Feel free to play along with us, legends, if you feel lucky. Could be an interesting night. I might not even be hosting by the end of it. Who knows? And lastly, just a couple reviews from last week's episode that I wanted to talk about. We got some great reviews in. One from my good friend Jason Davis in Wales. Jason, thanks for tuning in. I'm in tears here, boys. Simply fantastic. I laughed all the way through. Just epic. Champ. And he didn't know who the champ was or anything. Another review that we got from Coolio: without soccer or hockey, I've been coming to work far too rested and sober, but thanks to LWO Radio, I'm proper tired and hungover Saturday mornings. Thanks, LWO Radio. Thanks to you, Coolio, for tuning in. And I know you're going to be on a future episode, so that could be interesting as well. And lastly, we did get an email response from Gussie and Andrea about the Champs accident. So I'd like to just read a couple highlights from that, if I could. The first one from Andrea: as the female and new homeowner, I had the desire to start home improvements to mark our territory and make it our home. The Champ marked his territory not only in the rec room, but embedded it deep into the memoirs of Williams Lake and LW forever. So thank you, Andrea. Thank you for providing that. Of course, Gussie was a little bit harsher in his feedback. A sit-down pissing excuse. Our hearts were crushed. How can the Champs sink to that level? Andrea felt like she was watching Hollywood Hogan come down aisle at Bash at the beach. Where did the Hulkster go? What happened to doing exercises, saying your prayers, taking your vitamins, and owning up to passing out and pissing on the rug? A squat on our rug does add a new mental image that burns deep. We never claimed the Champ went full key ski, pissing on a waterfall, but I think he may just have to own it. So thank you for giving us that feedback on episode 2, Perfect Day. You can find it in the links. You can go back and check it out. But of course, we're not talking about the Champ tonight. We're on to brighter and bigger things, episode 3. And I'd like to now go to our segment where Scotty introduces our sponsor. You guys probably forgot that we even had a sponsor, all that talking at the beginning there. But we're going to go over to Scotty with our sponsor. Scotty, take it away.
Heading up to the interior this weekend from the Lower Mainland or Vancouver Island, perhaps? Well, there is one stop along the way that absolutely cannot be missed. The Bridal Falls Shell gas station, located in beautiful Rosedale, BC, is a must-stop for you and your entire traveling party. Just a quick pop off the highway before the majestic Coquihalla Summit Drive, and you will find your one-stop shop that includes, but is not limited to, pop, beer, liquor, assorted snacks, overpriced novelty lighters, dream catchers, beef jerkies, lattes and espressos, illegal fireworks, legal fireworks, random racist stuff, personalized keychains, mysteries and antiquities, First Nations artwork, crystalline figurines, tobacco products, Chinese bootleg DVDs, individually packaged eggs, road maps, patriotic animal t-shirts, amusing hats, CDs, tape decks, license plate holders, fine jewelry found nowhere else on earth, knockoff iPhone accessories that will not work with your iPhone, corn on the cob, children's toys, weed inhalation devices, boomerangs, bathrooms, even a restaurant for some reason, sunglasses, shot glasses, reading glasses, cocktail glasses, wine decanters or vases, finger puppets, sex toys, disposable film cameras, NASCAR memorabilia, baby clothes littered with sexual innuendos, toy musical recorders, and of course the lowest prices on gasoline in the Fraser Valley. Bridal Falls Shell gas station. Seriously, what are we doing here and why have I spent so much money? Now back to more LWO Radio.
Thanks for that, Scotty. That was a beaut, actually.
Of course.
I did not realize they had finger puppets there. I feel like I've missed out in my intoxicated state every time I pass through that little number, and I feel like as soon as the pandemic leaves, I'm going to have to go there. Maybe a special trip.
Probably
You and
should.
me? You and me?
Absolutely, yeah. And you
Okay.
just shop the recorder section mostly. I've noticed that.
I
You've
do.
missed out on the CDs and these bootleg DVDs. They have an amazing selection. Just fantastic.
Oh, great stuff, Scotty. Thank you for that. Now, quickly, before we get into tonight's main event, the origins of LWO, the Bays side, the Williams Lake side, I do want to acknowledge some of the boys in the chat. Coolio, good to see you. You're going to be hungover tomorrow. Sorry to break it to you, buddy. T-Roy, executive producer, joining us. You know it. We've got Mike Perry. How's the mustache, Mike Perry? For those of you who didn't know, Mike is growing a mustache, and it's well, I'll just say it. It's not quite there yet. I'm sure it'll come in no time. Glanville, nice to see you watching along. Nice to
RG.
join. Yeah, big stuff. We got Major, Yo Legends. Hope you are doing well, my friend. Bremner, hopefully the pre-party in Zoom was a good one. A guy that has been on LWO Radio every single episode except for tonight's. Mac Daddy, first-time viewer. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope the flower vase is full and ready to rock. Couple others. Alec, you found your way onto LWO radio. Congratulations. First time for everything. Look at this guy. It looks like the Predator might be here. So welcome and thanks for tuning in. I think tuning in from a ways away. Doctor, thank you for joining us. We've got the champ right along beside us. And of course, there are a few more. Jose, again, second week in a row from T-Dot. Cheers, my man. Thank you very much. A couple others. We got Moody acknowledging Mac Daddy. Nice work. And who else do we have in here? Man, a lot of them. Atomizer saying it was 2013. That was an answer to something that we were talking about a little while ago. And I think that's about it. Oh, we got Honey Badger. You updated your picture, Honey Badger. Thanks for joining us. Jer Bear, thank you very much. He's in the spirit of things already. I have a feeling he'll be playing along with Grab Bag. And I think that is most of you guys. Thanks again for joining us. If you haven't already, there's a thumbs up directly below this video. Just click on that for us. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and there'll be more episodes of LWO Radio to come. So let's get into the main event.
Grab Bag.
Oh, we've got our first
main event is Grab Bag, man. Let's do a virtual Grab Bag.
Virtual Grab Bag. I'm not cheating.
Grab Bag.
Right there. I'm scrolling around, Scotty. Oh, freebie, Scotty. Freebie.
Unbelievable. There you go. First grab bag ever on the internet, probably. Maybe. But yeah, let's get into the main event. Let's talk about an origin story. As you know, our origin stories have so far focused on the champ and some of the early years up in Salmon Arm. But tonight we're taking a bit of a different spin. As you know, LWO has come together as a team over the last 27 years now, and features legends from basically all over the world. But there's two other factions apart from the Salmon Arm that really have influenced the history of the LWO. And of course, we're talking about Williams Lake and the Bays Boys. Now, before I turn it over to Benny, I think there is one piece that I'd like to call out. And that was last week when we talked to the champ, he made a comment about an LWO Orton that was sacrificed at an AGM in Salmon Arm. And I believe in talking to T-Roy and Mac Daddy that it was at this meeting, that they decided to open up the team to players from outside of Salmon Arm. So this is a big moment in LWO's history, a big moment for actually all four of us that are on the screen right now, because without that LWO Orton, without that legendary contribution by the Walters aunt, I don't know if any of us would be sitting in front of you live on LWO radio right now. And so from that perspective, a very momentous occasion, a very significant occasion in LWO's history. And so it's worth pointing that out as we head into this segment. And we talked to Benny and Lebsy about some of the Williams Lake stories, the origins, as well as some of the base stories. Some I know, and some that you may not know that are quite entertaining. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Benny. I'd like you to start by telling us a little bit about your soccer history in Williams Lake and mention some of the guys that we all know on LWO, and maybe some of your background, if that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely, Holla. Thanks, man. Well, anyways, there's kind of two different branches that I can talk about here. So the high school, the junior high school branch, which connects to the Glanvilles and some of the younger guys that we're starting to play with. And the other branch is kind of the Fraser Inn crew, the men's crew that went down to the Salmon Arm tournament and kind of got to meet all the Salmon Arm boys. I'll start off with the high school crew and the junior high, actually. And junior high in Williams Lakes, yeah, look at that. That's handsome. Look at Gussie down there, bottom row. Look at that hair on that guy back left. Don't know where Brem is. Brem should have been in that picture. Probably had a suspension or something like that.
He was drunk somewhere, probably.
Yeah, like look at this one. And look at the two legends there. Look, beautiful Bruins jersey. RG. Easily the better looking of the twin. Here we go. That's grade 12 for Brem and I in the middle there, 10 and 14. Cornette's going to be there somewhere. Yeah, Cornette just a couple over from Brem. You got Clark there. Sean and Ryan down front. Yeah, myself, Brem, Beauty. anyways, so yeah, the high school crew, that's our card table. So from zones, forget what zone we were, but Clark started coaching the Kolomitsa. That's our high school in, look at that, in, I think it was 87. And texting with RG earlier this week, 21 years, I think Clark coached Kolomitsa, 15 zone championships, 15 out of 21. Unreal. So all of us that played in Williams Lake, we owe a lot to Clark, obviously. Sean and Ryan, they obviously owe a lot to us. Seeing all of us play growing up, coming to all our games, you get to watch us. Obviously, they're going to be as good as they are now. So a couple things about Clark. He did more than just coach us. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a houseboat story for later, that pick. Clark refed us when we were in men's league, stuff like that. One of the ones I like about Clark is when he forgot to bring his cards, and one of the Williams Lake guys was just beaking him. So Clark's like, all right, yellow card. And he's checking his pockets. Nope, nothing. Guys, can't give me a card. You don't have cards. You can't give me a yellow. So what's Clark do? Just stares at him, turns, walks off the field, plucks a dandelion, walks back, puts it in his face. Yellow card, free kick. Game on. And just a beauty. Just a beauty. Never played stoppage time when Clark was ref, and he had to get to his bridge game. So never stoppage time with Clark. And that was kind of the branch there. A bunch of us coached, Sean and Ryan after as well. Gussie, Gracie, Tommy Dell, who some of you might know. Hot Carl, when he was in high school, I coached him at that point too. So yeah, high school one, Bremner and I think Cornette, it was either Cornette or Gussie, one or the other anyways. Clark takes us down to the island, actually. We're playing in a tournament in Ladysmith, and there were 12 of us. Who takes a team of 12 to the island for a soccer tournament? But Clark does. Beautiful. So we come down here. We're playing. And I remember this one. We're just driving down the highway, which actually I know now. Back then I had no idea about it. But we're passing this hotel, and he kind of gives me an elbow, and he's like, Benny, that's the hotel that Sean and Ryan were conceived in. Like, attaboy. So anyways, that's kind of the Clark part of it. Obviously love the guy. Sean and Ryan joining us now. Carl, awesome. And then the other part of it, from that, we kind of turned into the Fraser Inn part. Fraser Inn, the big hotel in Williams Lake. So the Fraser Inn, the hotel, the keg, and then the steak company, the first place I ever worked. Got a job there through soccer as well. Downstairs, the Billy Miner, legendary, like absolute legendary place, the Billy Miner, place that shuts down for the boat race championships on the dance floor. So a little background there too. Most of you guys know Harry. Harry's been to all the tournaments. He refs us in Vernon now, runs soccer, some stuff in Salmon Arm, used to. Our coach, yeah, Fraser Inn, all that stuff. Anyways, he was the manager of Billy's. One of his best friends growing up, Paul Stoke, who was actually my main guy that got me into soccer in Williams Lake. He ran the Fraser Inn, he ran the hotel. So they were two high school buddies that ended up in Williams Lake working in the same building. The building, everything owned by Pete Saunders. Pete Saunders, father of two handsome gents, well, more than that, but Gary and Brett, who played with us, Bays. They've played Lake Hill, so shout out to the Lake Hill guys. Jer, Keelan played a bit of Lake Hill. Yags, obviously. Broomer eventually will be an LWO dude. So some of those guys, so that was Pete Saunders. So all those guys, they were huge for me. Yeah, so when I started in grade 8, I was at a party at my uncle's place. Only time he'd ever had the family over. And so I'm in grade 8, I'm 13, 14, and I'm bored out of my mind. The only thing there was a basketball. So I'm like, I'm going down, and you guys know I don't play basketball. I'm worse at basketball than I am golf. So I'm heading down to the junior high that I play at, or went to school there. Went down, there's a big hill. So anybody that knows the Williams Lake, huge hill, so I can shoot the ball up, it'll roll back to you. So I go down there and I'm shooting the basketball and juggling the basketball, which obviously not a soccer ball. Down at the far end of the field, bunch of dudes playing soccer. I had no idea who they were at the time, other than my cousin Kurt Levins. Bunch of you guys will know Levins, also cousins with Brock, who a bunch of you guys will know Warbits through school and stuff. We'll get to some of that stuff later. Anyways, they're playing soccer down at the far end. I'm just shooting the basketball. Only guy I knew was Levins, but it ended up, actually I knew Parnell a little bit too. Ended up, it was Harry and Paul Stoke and some of the Shermans and guys I had no idea who they were at the time. And then Paul comes down, and at the end of it, he's like, hey, I see you shooting the ball. We're short guys for men's league. Do you want to come out? And it's like, oh my God. I mean, I'm 14 years old and this guy's asking me to play. I was so excited. So yeah, it was, so that's when I started playing men's league, and I started playing with the Fraser Inn. And that was the main team that ended up going to the Salmon Arm tournament. And when I started playing for the Fraser Inn, one of the sweeper, my mentor at the time, he actually has a connection to maybe the greatest soccer game ever played at Little Mountain. And I know right now, yeah, that one that's on the screen right there. I know most of you, when you're thinking of the greatest soccer game ever played at Little Mountain, you're probably thinking the 06 final. Fair enough. The greatest outdoor soccer game was the 06 final. The greatest indoor soccer game involved the sweeper's daughter, Kelly Vincent. Anyways, we all know what we're talking about with the Pants Down soccer game. Monty against Kelly Vincent in Pants Down soccer, glorious. So he was the sweeper when I started. And then we ended up, after that, 92, that was my first time in the Salmon Arm tournament, going to the Canoe Pub and then out to the Billabong. Ripper, Gracie, Ian Sherman, Kelly's older brother, leaving the Canoe Pub. They're like, Benny, you can drive. You don't even have a license. They can't take it away from you. So I drove everybody from Canoe down to the Billabong. Kurt Levins went in a hairy chest contest. I remember that. I had Mike Grace's ID. He's 8 years older than me. But anyways, nobody cared. So yeah, that's kind of how the Salmon Arm tournament started for me. And then from there, 92, that was my first year. 93, first year winning it. Williams Lake, obviously, 93. Remember the semifinal? We were actually down 3-0 at the half. Kevin Harrison, who most of you probably haven't seen play, refs us now, slick player back in his day, crazy good left foot. He was the goalie for the first half. He comes out, hat trick in the second half. Gracie gets the winner. We go on to the final. Ian Sherman, Kelly's older brother, sets up the winner. And then, so that was the Williams Lake side of that. 94, Troy and Mac obviously covered that very well. Bit of a sore spot for us. Do remember the game very well against LWO. Gammy's penalty shot that Ripper saved. We'll hear more about Ripper. We heard about him during the perfect day, obviously. Unreal goalie. So yeah, so I remember that one well, the penalty shot, and then the free kick. Bit of a worm burner, just low, hard shot. Great shot, which knocked us out, obviously. And that, as Troy and Mac talked about, that kind of kick-started the LWO by beating us. So perfect. And yeah, and then from there, it kind of went into, there's a bit of gap of about 4 or 5 years. Hold on. I gotta have a sip here, which might actually mean grab bag.
There's no might about it. It means grab
There's
bag.
no might about it. All right.
Grab bag.
Oh, I'm good. I'm
All
good.
right.
All right. Put that back in there to keep my ratio proper. All right. Anyways, I'm pouring. So yeah, so from there we kind of get into kind of the years between tournament wins, which obviously are not quite as memorable as the tourney wins, just as I pour this here, because I like drinking out of this handsome mug. There we go. But yeah, so those kind of years after 93, 94, the Fraser Inn and LWO wins, some good years in there. Obviously, went back to the tournament a couple of times, but that was also when the Williams Lake crew was houseboating, which you may see some pictures of that later too. So Bremner and I on the houseboat with Warbits. But yeah, we were at Fraser Inn, was always in the tournament. Cornette there the one year, got in a good little debate about who could swim to a fountain by McGuire Pond there. Somebody backed out because apparently the turtles bite your cock. Didn't stop Cornette. But yeah, one of the Williams Lake guys backed out of that one.
Tough one to bite.
Fair enough. Yeah, so anyways, that was an interesting, in a way, the in-between championship years between LWO, Fraser Inn, there's that 4-year gap, but it's actually a huge gap in bringing Salmon Arm and Williams Lake together. And it actually has nothing to do with the soccer aspect of it. It's basically when a bunch of us graduated and they all started going to school together. So that's when, like, Mac, well, now he's the champ again. So nice to say that. Jose, some of these guys, they're going to school in Kamloops, and that's when Bremner and my cousin Brock, Pooney, Pooney. There you go. And look at the yellow jersey right there. Like, Pooney, perfect timing. Okay, if you were going to predict the loudest, most obnoxious name on the beer leader jersey, you would think it would be back-to-back O's, but you wouldn't think Pooney. Anyways, so these guys, they're going to school together. So they're starting to mix. They're starting to know each other. And at this point, I don't know any of them. But between my cousin Brock, Pooney, the Williams Lake guys, Bremner, obviously, everybody that's going to school in Kamloops, from that, I kind of start to get to know some of the Salmon Arm guys. And even at the Salmon Arm tournament, when we got off the houseboat and Warbitz and Pooney and these guys are there, Adam Robbie, Bob Robbie, that a bunch of you might know. So we get off the houseboat, and so they actually know these guys because they went to school together. So I don't know Mac and Troy and Champ and that, play soccer against them, but these guys actually knew each other from college. So it was good to actually get to know them through that. And it wasn't actually anything to do with soccer, with the LWO. It was more of a college thing. And then all those guys, Gussie too. Sorry, I forgot Gussie. So Warbitz and Mac, they play basketball together in Kamloops. All that stuff. Speaking of basketball, did a little legwork on this one. I heard a very good story about a bet, and it was Salmon Arm against Williams Lake in basketball. So Brem, thanks for doing the legwork on this one, getting a hold of a couple of guys. Anyway, so this
hold on.
Oh yeah, sorry, Holla.
You're gonna start a story by saying that Brem did your research?
Yes. And that's dangerous. I know.
Okay. I'll let the chat sort that one out. But before you do, I need one. So grab bag me, boys.
Oh, jackpot.
Grab bag. Grab bag.
We might have to change this ratio. This has been bad luck.
It's been great luck for me.
I imagine it'll be all right for Lebs.
Yeah, fair enough.
Pull one for me there, Benny.
Oh, no, grab bag. Oh man, this show is getting better by the second. Jackpot.
I think I'll
just think about getting lubed up for your big you've got an iron horse.
My iron horse.
Well, you better don't show that. Pebbles will be all over you. Rotten luck there, Lebs. Yeah. Rotten luck.
That's good luck. Who are we kidding?
So that was the only iron horse in the bag, right?
Oh, we're just going to leave the ratio. We're good.
Okay.
It's still there.
All right. Carry on. We've got our reporter Bremner on the scene. Let us know about the basketball.
Yeah. So this basketball, Salmon Arm, well known for their basketball. Obviously, we've all heard the story about how Spilly lit up the Ramettes. Like, there's some legends of basketball in Salmon Arm, but there's some good basketball players in Williams Lake too. So a few of those guys, apparently it was 4-on-4. So thanks for Brem for doing that legwork. I actually thought it happened in Kamloops. Brem says it happens from his sources, overseas actually, that it happened at UVic, and it was 4-on-4, Williams Lake against Salmon Arm for a keg. And, so yeah, Williams Lake, they had some good basketball players. Probably wouldn't have been Eichenberger if it was here, but I mean, national MVP, some quality players. And anyways, Williams Lake ends up winning this game, the rumor is. And again, according to our good friend, one of the 76ers, Jason Bremner, the Salmon Arm guys are not Lannisters. They did not pay their debt. There is still a keg outstanding, the rumor is, from the Salmon Arm guys to the Williams Lake guys from back in the university days. I'm sure there's some debate on the chat about that, but that's the rumor anyways.
What? Okay, so hold on here. That is a big throwdown. Chat, what are we saying on this? Put in your comments. Like, what's going on here? We have a representative from the other side of the story, or how are we going to make good on this keg of beer here? And how am I going to be invited to this?
That's right. But on that one, Holla, I believe how Pooney actually got his name on the beer leader jersey is he showed up in Vernon one year, which we won't tell many Vernon stories here, but him and the Champ had a game of horse or 21 at the hoops right beside the beer garden in Vernon. And Salmon Arm, I believe, won that one. So little respect there for sure.
Okay, so we're going to get to the bottom of this, maybe not on the episode. But we'll get to the bottom of it. Maybe we should all just drink beer together the next time we all see each other in a beer garden somewhere using Beer Champ technology. Lebs, you're being called out in the chat, my friend. I don't know if you did your beer or what's going on.
Oh
He
yeah.
got called out by me. He got called out by me.
Well,
I wrote down, drink the fucking beer.
I think sipping an Iron Horse is far worse than chugging one. So I'm punishing myself, guys. So that's what's happening.
Okay.
I believe at that point, if we were driving in a vehicle, Troy or Mac would declare shenanigans.
Yeah, or Holla would just throw piss all over you.
Yeah, that would be rough justice, but I would do that. You should think about drinking it because the boys are on us. So, anyways, all right, Benny. So right around what year are we at here? Like how we've covered the Williams Lake, the Fraser Inn days. Like where are we at in terms of timing in this?
Hey, before this, Benny, I need one too.
Oh,
it's not a perfect system we have here, but hey,
we're working it out on the air.
It is a perfect system.
Oh, you did all right.
Scotty Rimek. Very good.
All right, going
so yeah, Holla, I think we're getting up into the mid-late 90s now. So this is actually a kind of a transition for Fraser Inn too, from a bunch of the older Richmond guys that Harry and Paul knew that they grew up with, and Pete Saunders and those guys coming up, and then it kind of transitions player-wise into Levins and Kelvin Dubray, Parnell, all three Sherman brothers, and then the young guys of the crew. So Deep, who's he would be a 74, Gussie 75. I'm one of the three handsome 76ers, obviously. So we kind of progress onto the team 93, 94, and the older Richmond guys kind of they stop coming. And at that point, Deep Gill and Deep, anybody that's played with Deep, he played with us, Bays WO. He's just slick, just a class human, class defender, just quality dude. So he starts bringing up a few of his buddies from Richmond. And this actually, in a way, kind of ties into the story that Troy had about the transition for the LWO as well. And so he starts bringing up a few guys after 98, 99, where obviously we heard the stories from a couple of weeks ago. Well done to the LWO. I remember the 98. So 98. So there's a few things there with 98. Obviously, we heard the story of the final, the champs' golden goal. So well done on that. Gracie tying it up late. Classic Williams Lake Salmon Arm battle. And that's the beauty of it, too. Salmon Arm and Williams Lake, like, just proper teams, proper tournaments. They just do things right. I mean, Salmon Arm having the beer leader, like checking it off on the board, and that connects to 98, where we all got off the houseboat, and our Fraser Inn team, we must have had 30 supporters there. There were people camping all over. You saw the picture of the people sleeping in the net. We had to wake them up and warm up in the morning. Luckily, we were shooting on our own people. I think Bremner was one of the ones in the net, actually. But yeah, just that Williams Lake Salmon Arm thing, putting on a proper tournament, bringing us together too. I mean, we've been to Salt Spring. Good times. There's a reason we don't go anymore. Penticton, yeah, a beautiful spot. Great to see Coolio swimming in his cowboy boots and his jeans. That was a good time. But you know what? I mean, Penticton changes the rules so that the Penticton team get in the finals. Not cool. No tournament money. Lame. Vernon, obviously they put on a proper tournament too. Back in the day with Keith, now in Chilliwack, Keith Hatt. He's played with us. He hasn't played LWO, but he played with Poulis and I when we were playing with Poulis's mixed team from Calgary in a tournament. So proper tournaments. Williams Lake, having a boat race championship. Like the board, you walk up to the clubhouse, there's multiple trophies there. You got the tournament trophy, you got the boat race trophy, you got the tournament schedule on one, you got the boat race schedule on the other. Teams, if we ever had a team from the coast or something, they're like, what the hell's going on? Salmon Arm, Williams Lake, we knew what was going on. Proper tournaments. And I mean, it's not beer tap technology, but when you walk up to Williams Lake, you had proper tokens, like Williams Lake Soccer Club tokens.
Get that right up by the camera. Let's get a good look at that.
How's that?
Wow.
There you go. And I've obviously hung on to this. When I ref down here, this was my coin. You want the green side or you Williams Lake Soccer Club? This was my coin when I was reffing here. Like, it's not the 50-50 tickets. Like, no. Salmon Arm, they put on a proper tournament. Oh, that one's tough to see. You can't. Oh, maybe. I can't tell. Can you tell that one? Maybe. Shoe swap.
Hey, can I show you mine from last year? Look at that.
Yes. The progression.
Look at that. That's mine from last year. Pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah. And it was the proper tournament too. Like the Williams Lake crew in 98. Salmon Arm, I forget what the 50-50 draw was or what the prize pack was. But when the boys from the houseboat got there, and Warbit's cousin there that Mac played basketball with, everybody knows, one of Brem's best friends. Anyways, I mean, he's 6'6", has the long arm. So when they were pulling tickets, he'd just grab the longest reach. Yeah, good times. And the board. Williams Lake Salmon Arm, there's no debate. I mean, we're going to be one or two either way. But when the crew from the houseboat showed up and some of the older guys had their buddies down that were just camping by the beer gardens, that board, we were talking about that a little while ago. Mac brought it up, and it was like Williams Lake had doubled everybody else. And I mean, it wasn't just our team. Our team would have been top two for sure. But with all of our fans there, good stuff. So I mean, that brings us all together, and that's part of it. And it's a whole pile of that crew that actually isn't LWO, isn't soccer, but between Kamloops, Caribou College back in the day, UVic, the football games that I've heard about down here, Townley, Warbitz's house that Bremner and Gussie lived at, that Mac and the Champ and Jose and these guys partied at all the time. I've heard about the couch. I've heard about the one TV that had a certain product rolling over and over again on it. So a lot of good things that brought Williams Lake and Salmon Arm together. Absolutely.
We've got a rebuttal on screen for the keg. Mac Daddy says that beer debt was paid. We paid for a home brew keg that Warbitz and Brem brewed at Dr. Strange Brew.
Oh, interesting.
Possible. I'm going to go with possible. And I'm going to say possible because you let Brem do the research on that one.
That's fair enough. Well, and that actually
There's no way he would have remembered making that keg of beer.
Actually reminds me of one Clark story too there back in the high school days. Now that I know where he was going after coaching with Clark in 2001, he was going to have a couple of beers with the other coaches. But we're in the hotel, and he decides to leave Bremner in charge of Sean and Ryan. Like, seriously? But it actually dawned on me. They were stepbrothers at the time. So I guess Clark's like, you know what? They live together part of the time. Maybe they have a little connection, and Brem would be all right with them. But by the end of that, I forget if it was Cornette or Gussie. Depends on if it's grade 11 or 12. But they dumped all the shampoo bottles into the hot tub, and there were bubbles down by the front desk. By the time Clark got back, half buzzed from drinking with his other coaching buddies, Bremner may have let him down a little bit.
Fair enough. So a little bit about the Williams Lake boys, a little bit about the Fraser Inn boys, a little bit about what was going on in Williams Lake there. So a few stories. When's the moment, though, that you really find out that you're on LWO?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It would probably be 2004. So we had so after the late 90s there, I got to bring up Fraser Inn's run. I know there's going to be Williams Lake fans on the chat. So we had a good run with Fraser Inn for a few years. Three-peat 2001-02. Brett Poulis caused a little bit of friction with some of the LWO boys by winning a title with the Fraser Inn in the first year of our three-peat. Sean Glanville, he was a pup, 16 or 17 in that year, 2000, however old he would have been then. We had a couple of good years there, obviously. After the LWO won back-to-back, then Fraser Inn wins 3. It's always good when the two rivals actually win. Then 03, Fraser Inn, we were planning on going back to the tournament, and the Lightning, Clark's team, the Glanvilles, they were going to go to it too. And last minute, Fraser Inn had a bunch of guys drop out. So Deep Gill that I mentioned before, I actually kind of sheepishly called Clark and was like, hey, because he had been trying to get me to play with the Lightning for that year. And it's like, Clark, yeah, I should have said yes before. I didn't know the team wasn't going. He's like, yeah, come on down. Sounds good. So Deep and I played with the Lightning in, I guess that was 04. First year that, a bunch of twat waffles, Selection. I think that was the first year that they were there. And we ended up playing them. Nobody knew who they were. We played them in the second game, and they actually gave us a pretty good thumping, to be honest with you. That was the year that there was groups of 3, and part of that was because a few teams dropped out, including the Fraser Inn, which is not cool, but c'est la vie. So we played that year. Then the next year, 2004, and so I'd been living in Victoria for 3 years at this time. Obviously living with Poulis. We'd been roommates for a few years. Another doctor, some Spilly guy. He was our roommate for a couple of years too. So I started to get to know the Salmon Arm guys, and I was pretty ready to play with them after playing Bays. Poulis told me a bunch about the guys. I was still a little bit hesitant. There was, back in the Williams Lake days, there was one guy on the Salmon Arm team. I think he was a right back. I'm pretty sure he was a right back at the time. Anyways, back in the day, he might have been a little loud, and he might still be a little loud, but back in the day, Williams Lake tournament, he'd ride his crotch rocket bike up and have his helmet under his arm, and he'd roll into the beer gardens late, and he'd be like, "Ooh, yeah, Coolio's here." And the Williams Lake guys would be like, "Who gives a fuck?" And it's like, "Yeah, good for Coolio." And it's like, Poulis anyways, obviously good friends with Coolio, good friends with myself. He's like, give him a chance. And so kind of progressed from there. And then 2002, Bays WO, the Salmon Arm team wasn't with us. 2003, that's when we combined. And that's kind of when we got to know each other. And you know what? I mean, now when he walks into the beer gardens and he's doing the, ooh, yeah, Coolio, it's like, where's Coolio? I got to go hug him. I got to go bite him. Where's Coolio? And it's like, he's a brother. But it just kind of came together about that time. And 2004, that last year playing with Williams Lake and Salmon Arm, I believe both teams made the semifinal, opposite fields at Little Mountain. Both teams lost. And at that time, it was kind of that transition too that Troy and Mac had talked about, where the LWO kind of invited some of the new guys on, which we're getting to here eventually. And Williams Lake was kind of dying out. The Fraser Inn guys, they were crazy. Most of them were getting married off and having kids, as crazy as that is. And Clark's team, the Glanvilles, they started to go to the Kamloops tournament, which finally got to play with them. I think it was 18 years after they started going there, 2 years ago. That was a lot of fun. So the Williams Lake crew stopped coming to Salmon Arm. And you know what? When you're down here, you're living with Poulis. You got Spilly as a roommate. You're playing with Mac, Troy. Obviously, you get to know Monty a little bit through the tournaments, all that type of stuff. And yeah, I would say 2004. At that point, it was a no-brainer. And to solidify it, June 14th, 2018. Stamped on my leg for eternity. So LWO for life.
You know it. All right. So good story. A few good stories there as you kind of waltz through some of the Williams Lake background. Heard a lot of names of legends that are currently on LWO. Bremner, fellow 76er, Cornette. We've got Gussie. Kelly Sherman, another name. Glanvilles, who are watching along. Twat Waffle.
Carl Russell would have been on. So in 2002,
Carl,
the last year of kind of the big Williams Lake thing in Salmon Arm, and that was the Williams Lake final, 2002, where Fraser Inn, we actually beat Salt Spring just as our Bays rivalry with Salt Spring was getting going. So connecting it all together there, we actually beat Salt Spring in the semifinal. My first red card of my life. Legit 2 yellows that I deserved for sure. It was 2-2 at that time. We got 2 more goals, 1-4-2, and then won the final. So that Fraser Inn stuff. Anyways, Holla.
All good, buddy. Bremner's asking for a grab bag. Should we do one for him?
Bremner wants to, yeah, I'll do a grab bag.
No, grab bag. Oh.
Oh,
Rotten luck, Bremner. Drink your beer, though. All
Yeah,
right.
and hit me up, Benny. Hit me up with
Oh,
one.
yeah.
Grab bag.
Oh.
Oh, you did all right,
You
Scotty.
did all right, Scotty.
Scotty, I'll
You're
take
okay.
that one. You do a second pull, Benny, for Scotty.
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
Oh, Lebs, you're
Oh,
okay.
grab bag.
You're okay.
Ah.
You got to finish that other one first, Lebs.
Yeah.
You're drinking at the big kids table tonight, buddy.
Yeah. Jeez.
All right. Good stuff. Anyone else you want to mention from your days back at Williams Lake, Betty, before we start talking a little base?
You know what? I mean, it's from the LWO crew. Obviously, we covered kind of the older crew that plays. Myself, Gussie, Cornette, Brem, Kelly Sherman, a little bit older than us, but so I mean, the rest of us played high school together at some point. The younger guys, obviously, the Glanville brothers, Glanville twins, Hot Carl. There'll be a few more guys that from that crew that hopefully will join us one day. Jeff Buchanan, hopefully he'll join us one day. Dodgy will hopefully join us one day. And then from the older guys, you know what? Paul Stoke, again, the guy that got me onto Fraser Inn, that saw me juggling a basketball, gave me my first job there. Had boat races against him in the beer gardens at Blackburn. Anyways, I owe him a ton. Just a great dude. He's the one that ran the Fraser Inn. Kevin Harrison, I owe him a ton too. Helped out. He coached me in minor soccer as well, and Cornette and some of us. Bremner took me to Salmon Arm when I was a kid. So both of them took me to Salmon Arm when I was a kid. Helped me out there. Kind of got my feet wet with all of that stuff. And then ended up, coached us. Harry, like I said, played for years in Salmon Arm. Ended up coaching us during our good run there in the early 2000s. Who we see in Vernon all the time. Who falls asleep in Setters in Salmon Arm. Not afraid to fall asleep at the table at Setters in Salmon Arm during the hockey days, during the Legends of Hockey. So, anyways, I owe a ton to those guys. I thank them very much. Quality dudes, and it's crazy how juggling a basketball as a grade 8 at a stupid party that my uncle was throwing turns into this, and thankfully.
Fantastic. All right. Well, we are going to have more questions for you in a bit here, Benny. Lebs has been waiting in the wings to just mention some things. And of course, Bremner's yelling into the chat right now. Don't forget your parents, Gail and Don. So that might be a shout out you might want to make right now before.
Yeah, I better do that one right now. So absolutely. Thanks, Brem. Quality dude. So anyways, for them and for letting me play men's league when I was 14, for letting me go to a men's league tournament in Salmon Arm when I was 15. So obviously I owe them a ton. And where I grew up too, I grew up a half hour outside of Williams Lake, out Miocene. Pebbles was talking about it. There's a nice picture actually of Stanchfield Road in the slideshow at some point with a nice little scarf around it. And and thanking them for putting us up. So during the glory years of Bays WO in Williams Lake, there was kind of a crew that stayed at Gussie and McCarville's place and a crew that stayed at my parents' place. And they put up with us. As far as I know, no one peed on the carpet. So that's a good thing. But anyways, obviously thank you to them as well. And thank you, Bremner. Look at that.
What a guy.
I think that was 98 or 99.
So Benny did put this slideshow together for everyone. There's over 200 slides, so we've got it on loop tonight as we tell stories. We may pick out some details as we go through. We may not, but they're there for your enjoyment. Look at that one. And we may talk about some of these specific photos a little bit later in a new segment that we've got coming for you. But thanks, Benny. I am going to go to you, Lebs. But before we do, I think it's probably right to make mention of a little bit of my history. Of course, I'm the host, but I, of course, played on Bays in the late 90s. So I had moved over to Bays and thought I was pretty hot shit at the time. And I will never forget my very first tryout with Bays. I had, my Copas on, all polished up. I was ready to roll. And this guy comes walking across the field. It was at Henderson, wearing jean cutoffs just below the knee. He had the old Uhl Sport shin guards where it's just the front and then the Velcro around at the top, no socks, a sleeveless shirt, and a straw hat with the string hanging down behind. And I thought, man, I'm gonna skin this guy every time I get the ball. And I think the third time he nutmegged me, I realized he was the real deal. So, Mac Daddy, here's to you, my friend. First time I ever met Mac Daddy. Taught me a little lesson about the old football. And on those days, Mac Daddy was on base, as was the champ. He was just known as Wade at the time. And Jose was on the team. And when I actually caught up with Jose a couple years ago, I hadn't seen him since the 90s. He did not remember that. So cheers to that, Jose. But yeah, there were some early LWO guys on that team. Christian Provan's another name that was on the team. Him and I became quite good friends. But yeah, that's in the late 90s before I moved away to the States. So that's my connection. And I'm actually wearing, for those of you who are wondering, Monty, that's for you, my friend. This is actually a Bays Salt Spring tournament shirt from that late 90s. I'm not going to show you the back, but it says Bays on the back. This was our tournament shirt. So I don't know if any of the other boys had one of these shirts because that would have been May long, and the Salmon Arm guys probably weren't in school. I think they would go back home, but a little bit of football history. So that's my connection to Bays and eventually to LWO. But now we want to move it to Lebs as one of the guests of honor. Lebs, tell us about your early days with Bays United in Vic, and tell us kind of how you get started on that team and some of your early memories.
Yeah, thanks, Holla. And so I'll take a year rewind before I started to meet kind of the LWO members. So I think it was 2001. A young Bait and myself were on a U21 Bays team. There were a couple Bays teams, U21 at the time. I think Bob Knoll was on the other one. And that team, our team, was pretty successful, managed to make it all the way to the Vancouver Island final and won an extra time against another proud island club, Lake Hill. So just a little backstory there. The next year, we tryouts for different men's leagues teams. Ended up in Div 5. I think Bait was still eligible to play U21. Bob made the Div 2 team. And so it goes. That Div 2 team was struggling a little bit near the start of the season. Got called up to start playing with them. And that's the team that Kelly Sherman, Provan, Poulis. I think Mac was traveling the world then. T-Roy was gone too. So a few notable LWO Bays guys weren't there, but a number of them were. Played my first game. Next week, Benny came down from Williams Lake and moved down there. So then met Benny through there. And we just managed to, I think, stay in Div 2 by the skin of our teeth that season. That led to us becoming, pretty good friends over that period. And led to that tournament, or the first tournament I ever went to in Williams Lake, is 7v7, which I think we won with a couple Williams Lake guys. I think we were called Bays United on the trophy, Benny, if that's right, not Bays.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Lebs.
Yeah. So that was kind of our first year. So pretty good time. I won't go into the grab bag because Benny showed those pictures about that, but that was a pretty memorable trip. And then the next year, Div 2, that's when things really started to come together for Bays to ultimately move up to Div 1. We had some really strong coaching from Steve Cocaine, some good plays that he really got up for us. And then we started to get people back. So Mac came back, T-Roy came back. We had a left mid from Abbotsford come over, who became, part of our attack. I don't know, maybe not the main part, but I did track down a play from that era. Just it happened to be one of my soccer bags, and just thought it'd be good to show kind of the our strategy at the time. We also brought in Jordan Haas came. Bait moved up to that team as well. So here's a little play that I think our coaches worked up at the time. So yeah. not every pass was going to Perry, but actually maybe every single pass was going to him, and we kind of relied on him to work some magic for us. So, and also that motivational quote at the top there, Steve had a few things that we maybe didn't quite get at the time. This one, you will be surprised at how hard it will be out there, but also how easy. I think he said that before we had a cup game. I think we got rolled in that game, but it stuck with me. And I think he had some others, and maybe Benny or Scotty can add in. And then, of course, I mentioned we had kind of got Haas, we got Rimek, and then there's some other legends that not on this starting 11. Keith actually joined the team not long after. Well, a few of us had moved from the island, so Keith joined, and then other LWOers who also played in that era, Jens, Christian Provan, and Butcher also is on those base teams in the Div 2, Div 1 era. So that's kind of the bit of the backstory for the base teams. And I think what kind of it was a slow, I guess, progression for the Bays guys to become on the LWO. We started off with Williams Lake, and then we joined that Bays WO team where we got to team up with Coolio, the champ, before he was the champ, and I think it was that same. I think it was maybe after our first tournament with LWO that he was the champ. So we kind of got that integration going, and I might be losing connection. Am I okay on internet?
You are good, buddy.
Okay, so that's just kind of a quick. See the quote there.
Gussie.
Okay, so little old school. So that was before my time, but that's a kind of a snapshot of the era that I joined in and that went to LWO.
I'm going to assume that Mac, that quote about Gussie was, of course, a player for UVic. UVic always had a pretty tight partnership with Bays because of the proximity, and that's how they pulled a lot of their players. So I'm going to guess that maybe that's how Gussie ended up at Bays, but I could be wrong. And I see Gussie's been in the chat, so maybe he can let us know at some point. But yeah, that's quite an era. I mean, that's obviously after I left. I did remember Kelly Sherman was on the team as well. And Steve Cocaine was a coach when I was there. And Troy was just joining as I left. And then when I came back in 2002, I went and played Lake Hill. And I took Provan with me, but you guys took Butcher. So we kind of did a bit of a switcheroo. Our own goal stats went through the roof. And I think that's a good segue for something coming up. But our own goal stats at Lake Hill went through the roof, but you guys got Butcher and you got promoted. So I guess that all works out. The other guy that we've seen on slides that joined Bays during my time there was Jens, the crazy German. And the story with Jens, it goes like this, that we were playing one Labor Day weekend in the Castaways tournament, and those from Victoria will know that tournament well. Sort of the last tune-up before you go live with the season down here on the island. And if you're lucky, you got a chance to play against the Castaways rugby team with their rugby studs on, and you didn't want to play that team because always there was one person that would get a season-ending injury. Anyways, we show up for a very early game, probably like 8:39 in the morning, very hungover. I think we'd all been partying. And we were a little bit short up front, and there's a guy just standing on the sideline. I don't know if he was with his girlfriend. I don't know if they're walking their dog or something. He was wearing like flip-flops or something, smoking a cigarette. And we said, "Hey, can you play up front for us?" And the guy in a German accent says, "Yeah." So we throw him up front, and he scores 2 goals right away, just near post top corner, which, I mean, you just don't see that stuff. I don't know if Mac or Wade or Joe remember this, but that was Jens. And we signed him on the spot. So some good stories there from Bays, of course, before you were there, Lebs. Now, Scotty, were you at Bays when Lebs shows up, or did you come after? What's your connection here?
I was right after. I was the year they moved to Div 1. I showed up. It was completely random. I moved here, didn't know a single person, met Butcher at Soccer World, and they had that thing on the VISL where you could just post like, "Hey, players look for a team." And I said I was a Div 1 goalie in Vancouver, and Cocaine picked me up like on the spot. And that was the worst decision he ever made for the team. But hey, like it was fun to hang out. And just to go back a little bit too to Jens, when I remember meeting Jens too, he was on our team. And we used to run the chip trail around Henderson. So we'd do that thing 3 times, 5 times. I have no idea about that part of it, but I remember it sucked. Like you're just running this chip trail, blah, blah, blah. And I never saw Jens, not once. I'd never crossed paths with him. He wasn't there, but he must have been ahead of me or behind me or something. But at the end, he was always there, and he sort of smelled like cigarettes, and he definitely wasn't sweaty. But hey, boy, could he score goals.
And that is a true story. I remember those chip trail runs and also the Sinclair Hill runs when he rented out the indoor facility. I don't know if you guys had those, but it was like an 8K before we even started practice. Gussie, thanks for mentioning. It sounds like you had a guy, Paul, putting in a sink in your rental, and he had blue socks on. He asked if you could try out. I'm wondering if that was Paul Young, the amazing teacher and good friend. He used to just absolutely beat on guys in games. He was our enforcer. But yeah, thanks for letting us know. So Scotty, I think did you start in goal, or is that where you tried out?
Yeah, I came over from Vancouver and I was a goalie over there, Div 1. I played there as a goalie since I was like 13. But then after a couple of years, once I relegated the Div 1 team that worked so hard for Bays to get up to that point, once I was the main goalie and I got them relegated, then that's when I said, and enough is enough. It's time to go out and show what I can really, really do, which is nothing. And I continue to do that to this day. Or drink.
There's nobody better at it, Scotty. So that's what makes you a legend.
Thanks, buddy.
I appreciate you. Lebs, I think you had a story. We were talking a little bit about Provan and having a case of the Provans in the top corner shin rolls. I do remember Provan used to talk about it quite a bit, that he would actually turn around and sting the palms of the keeper when they weren't paying attention, just rip a shot back at his keeper. I don't know what Coolio would do with that these days. You had a story about something to do with own goals, did you not?
Yeah, I probably most guys have heard this one before, but I'll share this one because it always makes me laugh when I think back to this.
Hold on, let me grab bag.
No, grab bag. No.
You know what?
Grab bag.
For this story, I'll just grab it.
Just grab it.
Yeah. And before I get into that, while Benny's warming up with that iron horse, I'll mention.
Well, is Lebs even done his pounding? I don't even think he is. How's that going? It's a sipping drink. It's a sipping iron horse.
You should not give it large to Benny right now. Oh, you finished yours. Oh, what's the timer on? 107. We've been live for an hour and 7 minutes, of which 40 of those minutes you've been drinking that iron horse. Anyways,
every sip's enjoyable.
Very good, as you do.
That was good.
Albertans, everybody.
Yeah.
Anyways, carry on with your story.
Yeah.
And he's got his grab bag.
I just want to say before I get into this story, Scotty goaltending. I remember some critical games for the Div 1 team, getting a shutout on Salt Spring and a tie in Powell River. So those are two. Scotty, I hope I'm remembering that right. That was our second season where those are key points for us. So I remember.
There was a couple. Yeah, there was a couple. I was okay. And in the Powell River game, there was a lady standing there with a llama. That was the craziest part. And the llama was really enjoying the game. And that was driving me just mental. Like, why? This is my first time in Powell River. I was so scared. There's like 1,000 people there, and then a llama too. It was nuts.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll get into this. Holla, I don't know if I'm supposed to do this on air. I'm getting a phone call. Let me just take it. Looks long distance. I'm just going to check it. Yeah, it's a long distance call here. So I'm just going to take this before I get into this here. All right.
So you're going to accept the charges?
I accept the charges. Exactly.
All right.
So,
wow.
I'll get into, so this story begins, I guess it was our second season in Div 1. We were, it was a Saturday night game, I believe, in Port Alberni. We had beaten Port Alberni earlier in the season at Royal Athletic. It was not a comfortable win, but a win that we had expected to, and we won. And so this was the away fixture, I guess, up in Port Alberni. and it was a classic Vancouver Island night. So it was raining, a bit windy, kind of the pitch was wet. Not miserable, but pretty close to that. And we had an up and down season at that point. With Bays, we had started off kind of right out of the gate on fire. We had competed against every top team typically in the league at a high level, even took points off them, and then had a little bit of a lull in the middle of the season, and we're kind of trying to get back to that level that we wanted to be at. And I think that's one thing that Bays and LWO I think had in common, is that we really gave it everything we had on the pitch, and also made sure we had a good time afterwards. So anyways, we're in Port Alberni, kind of a miserable night. I think it's the second half, or very late in the first half, and we're enjoying a fair bit of the possession, and I think we have the ball down the right side of the field, and in their half, I think it gets worked back to me. If my memory is correct, I'm going to ask Scotty to jump in here and add his thoughts on this, and Benny as well, because I still would like to know what he was thinking, but I'll get to that in a second. The ball gets worked back to me at half, pass the ball back to Benny, who was playing our sweeper at the time, and he gets the ball right at the center circle. So just want to emphasize, there's absolutely no pressure on him at this time. There's no one coming to him. We're enjoying possession, and Benny turns and decides he's going to play it back to the keeper. And I thought as soon as he made that turn, I'm like, that's interesting. Like, we don't really need to play back to the keeper. There's no one near you. But I played with Benny a lot, and he usually makes the right decision. So he decides to play it back, and the one thing that next surprise was that it wasn't a ball on the ground. I mentioned it was a very wet pitch, slick night, but Ben decides to put a little bit extra on it and just fires it back, a big lobbing pass back to our keeper. And right away, I was like, oh, this is going to be trouble. So our keeper at the time comes out to play it, and you could tell right away he's nervous. And he comes out, doesn't want to hand the ball because, of course, what happens when that happens. So he runs out, kind of jumps over maybe one or two credit cards as the ball takes a big bounce right in front of him, right over his head in the back of the net. And I think that goal ended up keeping Port Alberni in Div 1, because I don't think we recovered from that goal to win the game. I think it was a 1-0 loss, but it was quite memorable. And I don't know, Scotty, that's my memory of it. I know we were chatting about it earlier in the week, and it's I'll turn it over to you, what you think of that.
It was a foggy memory, as we discussed on Wednesday. I don't even remember being at the game, but then, the things started coming back to me, and I totally was on that team. I think it was Chase Stokes in net, and there was a lot of things going on with that play. Like, what the hell is he doing? Because, like you said, Benny got it back and just turned and just ripped one to Chase, and it was like a 40-yard kick, and I've never seen him kick it this far ever. And he was picking this time to show off.
Have you never seen Benny kick the ball out of bounds when we're all hungover? The old 74.
Yeah, when you try to kick it over the building. When you're kicking over the building at Gorge. Yeah, I know what it is. But like, we saw this one land. The other ones at like Gorge going over the building or into the tree farm at Lake Hill. Like you don't see them land. You don't get the grand scheme of how far they went. But this one, he ripped it. You're right. And then we're thinking like, holy, this is probably not a good decision. But at least, like, worst case scenario, Chase will just be like, catch it. And then he didn't. He just let it bounce and then kind of, that's in the net. So there was a lot of things going on there where everyone was just kind of scratching their head. But I mean, the things I do remember, I remember that turn and hit it back to the goalie, which was very bizarre. I remember Chase not stopping it, because we would have taken an indirect free kick instead of a goal. Like, personally, I don't know. I'm no super coach.
Yep.
And then I remember it being super gross on that field. I remember Port Alberni being a terrible place to visit. And I was playing up front that game, and I two-foot cleated a guy in the knee for absolutely no reason. I don't, to this day, I don't know why. And then I also remember Benny at the end of the game not saying, "Hey guys, sorry about the own goal thing," or "Why was I doing that?" I just remember Benny coming up to me and saying, "Hey, I'll meet you guys at the car. Okay, just go. I'll meet you guys in the car." That's it. I was like, well, okay, I guess he's embarrassed about that or something. Then he comes running up and he's got the game ball under his arm and he's just running. He's like, go, 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 go. That's what I remember.
Made a grab bag of his own there.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, true story. The other night I was watching Port Alberni Live, which is their version of LWO radio, and they actually brought up that own goal as one of the most memorable goals in their history. So congratulations to you, Benny.
Yeah, thank you.
Distinguished award, but it kept them in Div 1 for one more year.
Holla,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt here. It's been quite a while. Does anyone need a beer? I need a beer.
I do. Let's do a couple
Holla
grab
needs a
bags.
beer.
Yeah, let's do a couple grab bags.
That's
No.
Who's this? Hold on. This one has to be Holla's.
Holla's? Okay. Not looking.
No. Grab bag.
This is bad luck.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll take it.
I'll take the next one, Benny. I got the next one.
Grab bag. No. This is compelling viewing.
It really isn't. Jesus.
What is that?
Grab bag.
Lots
Lots left for you, Lebs.
There's only
actually,
3 people in there.
when I played at Lake Hill, we went up to Port Alberni. I had Christian fly me there because he had his pilot's license. Talk about bad judgment when you're young. And shout out to you, Christian, if you're watching. I believe he flies with NORAD now. So congratulations to you, my friend. But back then it was a little bit dicey. We actually flew to Port Alberni. But what a story that is. So I guess, we've covered a little bit of Bays, some of the players that have come out of Bays that were there. I know Jer and Stevie Howard's another one. It always had a bit of a rivalry with Lake Hill as well because, Christian and I were over there, and eventually there was some mix-up of players. Some of us ended up at Lake Hill. So Lake Hill also figured prominently. And of course, we're not going to spend any time tonight talking about it, but it did spawn off one of LWO's sister teams, the Dukes FC, which is a legendary team in its own right. Very limited run at the Comox 7-a-side tournament in June, staying with Jahas. So maybe in the future, we will take a show and talk a little bit about Dukes FC, but it's not on the agenda tonight because we could spend a lot of time telling some stories there. It's got its own content. But of course, Betty, you're one of the founders of Dukes FC, and Scotty, you were our goalie the very first year we won that tournament, which was the first year I believe that we were in it.
Is that the only year we won it?
It might have been because we got pretty gassed by the final.
Sharif Abdur.
We always made the final, but wheels tend to come off the bus after a lot of drinking.
Yeah,
but anyways,
that was not a soccer tournament. That was just I don't know what's going to happen this tournament.
That one Friday might be the worst ever game. Driving up there. Yes. How do you drive up there for a game Friday after work? And anyway, how did we score 5 goals? I mean, we gave up 15, but we did score 5.
We scored 5 against a Div 1 team. And I remember opening the van door and I fell out onto my face into the parking lot. And I thought, there's no way we can play a game like this. And we scored 5 goals against that team. And then we met them again in the finals and couldn't score 1. And we were definitely much more sober in that game. But anyway, like Holla said, another day.
Fantastic. Yeah, that was a fantastic tournament. We should spend some time talking about the jerseys and the teams and the name and the cabin and sleeping on boats and all of the fun stuff that we did at that tournament.
There's another peeing on the floor story there too, I believe too. So hey,
I don't recall that one actually. No. Moving on. So now we've established Bays. They've got a strong history in Div 2 and Div 1. They'd always been a Div 3 team. So the fact that, we've got some of the guys who are now on LWO, they join forces. We got Lebs, Perry, Jahas, Poulis, Jer, Scotty, yourself, Benny, a bunch of the guys, T-Roy, Mac. You guys are on the team. You guys actually moved it up to Div 1, which was a big achievement. And you maintained in Div 1, I think, more than one season? Couple?
Yeah, we were a few seasons. We had a couple of really good years where we were kind of fifth, sixth, middle of the pack. I mean, the top 3 or 4 teams, they were very good. But we were kind of that. I mean, everybody from Victoria kind of knows that the bottom 5 teams in Div 1 and all of Div 2 are actually fairly similar. And for a few years, we were one of those teams that we were kind of too good for Div 2, but not totally good enough for some of the Div 1. But then we had our few years there. Especially the one year with Lebs and Perry and Bate and Kieske and Saunders, and we had a good team. And I think we finished 5th or 6th that year, which is pretty darn good. So anyways, we had a pretty good run there.
That's a great record, and thanks for mentioning Kieske and Bate. Bate, I see in the chat tonight. I think there was a moment where you guys have now joined up with LWO, at least Lebs and Benny. I'm not sure if you were there, Scotty. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I was there, but I wasn't an official member because this is a thing that me and Mac argued about for years and years. So I went to tournaments with the LWO. So I went to Vernon especially, but because I never went to Salmon Arm because it was always the same weekend as baseball provincials, I couldn't make it to that until one year. And it was the year that Holla, your kid, was on the team that we actually won and went to nationals. Remember, I took a sabbatical that weekend, and I said, you know what, I hate this baseball stuff. I'm going to Salmon Arm and drinking out at LWO Wharton and having a good time, and then we'll go and win the provincials and go to Toronto, which you were a part of. So that was when I officially joined the LWO. But I've been there since 2000, and I don't know, whenever we went to Vancouver and Troy's place, and I saw the champ. I walked into Troy's apartment and saw the champ getting a lime squirted in his eye, and he tried to kick a grape out of the sliding glass door, and I had no idea what I was walking into. I saw this, I'm like, oh my God, what is this place? There's stuff like powder all over the table. It's just sugar. But at the time, I didn't know what was going on. And then he missed the kick, so the champ had to do his kick again, I believe. And he turned to me and he said, "You're next, bitch." And I had no idea who he was. He didn't know who I was. And I was a little intimidated. But that's kind of when I got introduced to the group.
I think that was 2004, Holla, because I believe we went to the Western final after that.
2006.
Was that 2006?
Yeah, Western final 2006. And we were at Troy's place. Yeah. And there's a lot more stories to that, too, because I remember Lebs in the hotel, and something to do with the Walters brothers stealing a keg and pissing in staircases, and that security guy following them. And we go on from that. It was amazing.
So
Rainbow Wings.
So we're talking about the Western Conference final. We're talking about some football. And the Passaglia is another strong tradition in LWO. Champ last week talking about the perfect day, and he's tossing the football, getting some of his cronies, some of the boys, to catch for him so he didn't get injured. There's another story out there, I believe, Lebs, that involves the football that Benny's holding, and I think it involves a couple people that are in the chat tonight, who we've both gotten some quotes on the story and their versions of events. But Lebs, you were there that day, were you not?
Yeah, I was, Holla, and that day I can't remember. I think we saw some photo evidence that was 2006. 2006 or 2007. Either way, I think it was the Monday of August Long. We were all having a good time, hanging out. I think Benny had his football with him, and so there ensued a good game of catch, I guess, and Monty and Bate were playing, and they were practicing some different routes and just throwing the ball, and the story kind of begins where Bate was running one route, Monty thought he was running the other, and there was a substantial overthrow, and it resulted in a window. But I'd be very curious as to what other thoughts of the guys in the chat are about what actually happened on that.
Well, hold that thought, Lebs. So we've got Monty, we've got Bate, we've got some sort of throw that ends in a shattered window in a clubhouse. We actually received a quote, and I'm sorry I didn't get it on screen, from Monty himself. And thank you, T Money, for getting this from Monty. He says that bait just didn't run the right route. If he does, he has a chance of making the catch. Football is all about timing. So, Lebs, that's what he has to say about it. But what's your observation? Is it just that bait hasn't run the right route? Did he just not time it?
Yeah, I mean it's a good. I mean, Monty's point, well taken. I mean, yeah, his route. Had bait run a different route, could he have caught it? I don't think so. I think, but I wasn't the guy trying to catch the ball. But from my view, it didn't look like bait could have caught that ball. But did you? Is bait able to?
We got something from bait. You'll be surprised to know.
Okay.
T Money is. Let's just give a shout out to T Money because he does some pretty amazing investigative journalism here as our executive producer here at LWO Radio. So thanks, T Money. We got this quote from bait. After a nice circle of trust moment at center of the field, and after no doubt a few phone calls, I ran a route to complete a pass for Monty, who had the football. My button hook left route didn't quite match up with Monty's brain, and as I turned to receive the pass, looking over my left shoulder, hands ready, I saw the football fly 25 feet above my head and through a window of the clubhouse. The clubhouse was about 75 to 100 feet behind me. Monty never lets me forget that I ran the wrong route. So that's some pretty significant distances there. Benny, are you at this? Did you see this?
Oh, I was there. Absolutely. And you know what? Everybody there heard Monty call the play. Like, I've got the Bears back on this. Everybody heard it. When Monty speaks, everybody hears. And Monty obviously called right, maybe left. And bait turned left, maybe right. You know what? I got Monty's back. I think bait could have had that if he would have run the right route.
And gone up the stairs into the top floor of the clubhouse?
I think Monty called that. The Philly special.
The Philly special. That's the one where you go up the stairs and into the clubhouse. Fantastic. All right. Well, as I wasn't there, Scotty, do you have anything that you want to contribute to this story? I mean, we got to get to the bottom of this.
I was not there, so I can't pick sides really, but I will. Monty's right. As you know, me and Monty have a thing where he's my best friend, and he's also trying to kill me with a dragon glass one day. So I'm on Monty's side on this one. He's 100% right.
Hold up. I don't know if we've ever covered that story. I know it's a 2019 story, but why was Monty trying to kill you with dragon glass?
Monty gets a little, I don't know. He just switches from I'm your friend to I'm not your friend. The first time I met him, we were at a Fuddruckers or something, or Fog and Suds in Richmond. And I was sitting down at a table, and then Benny came and sat right beside me. And it was really aggressive sit down. And I think Poulis, I'm not sure, it's really foggy, but I know Benny was there, and he sat really aggressively beside me. I'm like, what's this all about? He's like, I don't think Monty likes you. Okay, I don't really care. He goes, no, Monty doesn't like you. That's not a good thing. And then he was just staring at me from across the table. And eventually, in the middle of like us having drinks and having a good time, Monty just got up and tried to jump over the table, and he tried to kill me. And then the next day we became amazing friends. So I was super confused. And that was actually 2004. That's Benny, you're right, by the way. I saw Mac in the chat there point that out. There was two different Western finals. So 2004, that's when this happened. Yeah, and then we've been, me and Monty have been amazing friends since then. We've had nothing. We've been great. And then last year, I think, last year, we were in the beer gardens in Vernon, and Monty just out of nowhere, he just came up to me and said, I'm going to kill you. I said, okay, Monty. I've heard that before, but I know to keep a couple of feet between us. And so I'm walking through the beer garden and looking around, and Monty's there. He's right by me. And he keeps saying stuff. He's like, I'm going to kill you. And then eventually he ups his game too. He goes, I'm going to stab you in the neck. I go, Jesus Christ, that's really specific stuff, Monty. And then eventually it turned into like, I'm going to stab you with dragon glass right in your throat. And for anyone that doesn't know, dragon glass is from Game of Thrones, and it's the only thing that'll kill the White Walker, so it's a big deal. But I'm still a little concerned I'm going to get stabbed in the throat at some point. So I'm keeping a couple of steps ahead of him, and eventually I think I left. I was like, this is too much. I'm out of here. So I leave the area. It's like those signs you see in Souk all the time. Bear in the area, avoid it. So I did that. I left. Came back later, and I ran into Monty's brother, and I was regaling him with this tale of Monty trying to kill me with dragon glass to the throat. And he said, and his reaction was crazy. I thought it would have been like, geez, yeah, be careful or something like that. And he just laughed. He goes, yeah, he's been binge watching a lot of Game of Thrones. So, it's probably nothing. But if you see him with something sharp, get the fuck out of here. So I'll take that advice any day.
Classic. Shout out to you, Monty. Thank you for joining us. That's a good story. Game of Thrones and the Dragon Class. I'm glad you didn't get Scotty, because otherwise he wouldn't be able to host with me. So appreciate.
Would have been a downer for sure. Big downer for sure.
Not being successful in that. A question for all three of you guys before we move segments, before we move on here, guys. I'm going to go to you, Benny, first. You're an interesting one because you take a bit of an interesting route to get to LWO. You've gone to Williams Lake, and most people would say, okay, he goes from Williams Lake to Salmon Arm, but really you kind of came through Bays as well before you really get onto LWO. At what point do you realize, and this is a question I've been asking all the guests on LWO radio, but at what point do you really realize this is a for life thing?
Probably after this grab bag.
Oh, he's got a grab bag. Are you ready again, Scotty?
Oh, yeah, Scotty.
No, him. No, Benny needs one.
Oh,
I know he does.
I still got a wee bit.
Ah, fuck. I thought I got you there. Sorry, go on with that.
Soon enough. 2004. 2004 for sure. I remember LWO. Said before, kind of that idea that the Williams Lake crew, we had a good run there, but some of the older guys started moving on with kids and stuff like that. And from there, again, playing with the guys down here. And even one of the years, like my last year with the Williams Lake crew up there, like Lebs, I believe you were actually, there was a big debate. We were throwing offers at you. I was trying to get you to play with the Fraser Inn. But LWO won out for you. At the time, I was disappointed. I mean, fair enough. I respect your decision, and I'd probably make the same one now. So yeah, 2004, somewhere in there, end of the Fraser Inn, the Williams Lake days. Glanville start going to Kamloops, meet up with Mac, Poulis, Troy, those guys down here, Lebs, Bate, Robbie Knoll. Yeah, I'm in from that.
I love it. All right. And you, Lebs, when do you've joined LWO, when do you realize this is a for life thing? Like this is maybe a little bit bigger than any other team you've played for?
I think, yeah, it was the first tournament, 2003, the year before. I think like the bond with the guys started before, like with Poulis joining that Bays team, and then when Benny came down, Shermanator, Bob, and all those guys, and then that, as I mentioned, that Div 2 team when we started to make it up when Troy and Mac came back and others. So kind of when I jumped into that 2003 tournament, and I'd played with Coolio and Champ and met Monty, I believe, once before through the Williams Lake tournament. So had met those guys, and then coming to the 2003 tournament was kind of something that I'd never experienced before. Just like I said, the guys playing together on the field and then having such a good time afterwards. I think it was the last year, or at least I think it was, that we had the songs at Blackburn Park and sitting on the bleacher, hearing Days of the Week, of course, LWO Overture, Father Abraham, and it was just something special that I think was kind of immediate. I don't think I ever did sign Yellow Crayon, but there was talk of doing that at that tournament, which for life. But anyways, it was then and there, and yeah, just meeting some of the guys off the field, and also seeing there was a lot of, I'd heard LWO was in a rebuild, but I remember playing with them that first tournament and really being impressed by a lot of the skill we had on the field. Like, and I was playing in the center back, so I remember watching the mids like Murray, of course, and then Gammy and Guy in particular, and Joe down the right. I remember Luke and playing a big tough game against Salt Spring. So, anyways, I probably went on there a bit longer, but it was that first tournament, and all aspects of the experience were awesome. So,
I think there is a memorable moment. You were recently nominated for an award that Troy put out his emails for. We announced winners on episode 1, but I think Scotty actually wanted to ask you a question because the audience wants to know, and we get into this. We want to know about the seedy underbelly of some of these things. Scotty, what did you want to ask Lebs?
Like I said, I've been a part of the team for quite a while, but I just couldn't make it to that August long tournament. So I always freed up time for Vernon, which I think was July long. And Lebs was a staple there, and I was friends with him from Victoria, blah, blah, blah. But one thing, I mean, you're an athletic guy. You were then, you still look to be now. Lebs, how many marathons have you taken part in?
Scotty, I was training for my first official marathon, until COVID shut things down. I've done a lot of halves, 30Ks, but yeah, I've never actually completed a regulation marathon.
I would like to say that might be bullspit, because I remember back in the day when we used to go to Vernon, we didn't stay in hotels because we didn't have the hookup from Murray, and we were all cheap and poor and couldn't do anything. So we stayed in a campsite, if I recall. And there might have been some sort of marathon that took place that weekend, one of those July longs from the campsite, which was way up in the mountains of Silver Star Ski Resort above the city, if I recall. Do you remember any of this?
Yes, I do recall that marathon. I don't think it's an official marathon distance, but it was
Should be
a marathon effort. Yeah.
Do you want to bring us into some detail, or would you like me to do that?
Sure, I can speak to it, and then please jump in, because I think you've got a much better way of telling the story than I can. But yeah, Vernon tournament, end of the night. And Scotty, please correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but for some reason, you and I both decided to sleep in the vehicle, you in the passenger seat and me in the driver's seat. And there was also a tent, but for whatever reason, it seemed easier to just hop in the car and sleep in the seats and not go in the tent. And yeah, I have a history of sleepwalking, and for whatever reason, that night was one of them where kind of woke up in I guess from a dream or what have you, just kind of opened the door and kind of ran into the woods. And I have a history of doing this, and then it takes me a few minutes to figure out where I am, that I'm not in a dream anymore. And yeah, so ended up realizing I'm in the woods, saw the road at the end of it, and like, okay, I'll get out of here, and made it to the road. I'm like, okay, I remember now that I'm on the road. I remember taking a left turn into the campsite. I'll just follow the road down a little bit until I get to that left turn, and then that'll move us into put me back in the campground. I'll go that way rather than trek through the woods. So end up going down, looking for that road, keep going. Eventually realized that, you know what, I overshot or something. I don't remember the directions right. So kept walking down. I think midway to that casino, or to the casino down in the town site, there is a payphone. So I'm like, okay, I'll just call a cab from this payphone and make it back. I'm not sure if I had money or if I was going to call collect. Anyways, that payphone wasn't working. So at that point, I just decided to make the decision, rather to go uphill, I'll just keep going down. So yeah, ended up going all the way to the casino using the casino cab phone. And I think it was clocked at 10 kilometers to the casino. And yeah, called a cab, came back to the campground, realized that the left turn was actually above the place where I ended up out of the woods. So there was no way I was ever going to find that left turn. And that's that. So that's my kind of recollection of that story. Scotty, I know you're probably got more an eloquent memory of what actually happened.
My memory of most things is extremely foggy, but I do remember that night, and that was a crazy weekend in general. I think that we invented the rave cheer around a campfire. it was awful for every family staying there. We were so loud and terrible. I think there was Monty bowling involved, Kelly Sherman, and Coolio will know what that is. But I think, yeah, I don't remember sitting or sleeping in a car with you, but that is quite possible. But that's not the root of the story. I do remember that we were very close to the road, our campsite. And I think what happened when we pieced it together was you sleptwalked out of your tent and you kind of came to, and it's like left or right, left or right. And you picked left, which was a 10-kilometer hike down to the Village Green Motel in Vernon, when right would have just been the tent door. So that was probably the most accurate choice. But that's not the crazy part. You walked all the way down, you committed to it, and God bless you for that. Then you got the cab back, which is really smart, because why do a 20-kilometer hike if you don't have to? Got back there. But the crazy part is no one knew about this till the next morning when we woke you up, because you were sleeping right outside the front door of the tent. You were on the ground. You made it back to the tent, but just figured like it probably smelled like farts in there or something. You're like, I'm not doing that. But you're sleeping right outside the front door of the tent. And then we woke you up and we're like, Lebs, why are you sleeping out here? And that's when you brought us into this. Like, I think I walked down to the Village Green Motel last night, which is not close in any way. And ever since then, it was just dubbed the Marathon of Hope. And I know it's not an official marathon record. It's not the distance, but for anyone that's willing to put up with that, I don't even know if you had shoes on, but you did an amazing thing that day. And I just wish there was a charity involved back then, because like that would have raised a lot of money. That was incredible. I'm glad to have been a part of it, and it just lives inside of me forever. So thank you for that.
Incredible
Welcome.
stuff.
Yeah.
Lebs,
Thanks,
and amazing that you did all that and played all that soccer and somehow found a way to drink all of that alcohol. I'm assuming you drank that led up to that. So thanks for that, gents. It's been a good little trip down memory lane. Before we move on, I think Scotty needs a grab bag. So let's go for it. Scotty, grab bag.
Benny's looking. What is he doing? Benny's looking, and he's
Benny's
muted.
on
He's
mute.
still looking. He's
very
muted and
angry.
looking.
He's a
This is
very
an
angry.
Of course it is.
Oh, of
You
course
looked
it
like
is.
3 times. Filthy animal you are.
It's because they're
Good
all
thing I've
warm
got-
now. Originally, there were some that were warm and cold, but they're all warm now.
And it's 10:42. I don't have another 50 minutes to drink this like Lebs did with his Iron Horse.
Well,
That's
you
bad
know,
Baloney.
we're doing
Just
all right.
Baloney.
Bad luck.
All right. And so ends our origin segment. Thank you guys for contributing to that. It was nice to hear a few stories about Williams Lake, the Fraser Inn, some of the LWO legends that have featured for that team. And of course, just a little bit about the Bays era that featured all three of you guys, as well as many of the guys in the chat tonight. And legends, thank you for sticking with us. We're just over an hour and 40 minutes in. We got 21 live watching right now. Appreciate you guys all checking us out, sticking with us. Hopefully your beers are still somewhat fresh. I have a feeling Mac still has a bit in his vase. So way to go, Mac. Was drinking gin and tonic last week out of that vase. What a legend. Anyways, thanks for sticking with us. The next segment usually is Where Are They Now? But this week we're actually changing it up with an all-new segment that we like to call Who Wore It Better? So we've queued up some photos of some legends versus some other legends. And we're just going to go to the crowd. Either the chat can contribute. I will be going to the panel for their answers. Of course, we're going to go to this new section called, if I can find it, Who Wore It Better? And the first one that we're going to start with is Champ versus Rocky here. We've got Rocky, the Rocky statue, wearing the scarf. Of course, Champ doesn't have the scarf on that in this picture, but what a Champ photo that is. So going to go to you first, Scotty. Who wore it better, Champ or Rocky?
Oh, this is tough. I didn't know you were going to come to me on this one.
Well, I had to make sure you're done that Iron Horse.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, you saw that was done.
You ain't no turkey.
Yeah. No, the people in the making the comments there, Mike Perry saw that. That's wonderful. Who wore it better? That's a tough one. I mean, the Champ looks very good. The Rocky statue looks very good. It's almost a tie, but if I have to give it to someone, I clearly cannot see pants on the statue. I like people without pants. The statue wins.
Okay, that's a brave call. Lebs, rebuttal, or are you good? Are you going with the statue?
There's only one champ, and he's holding two old Milwaukee's there. And yeah, I just think the Rocky's very close second, but just kind of lacks that certain machismo, as we heard last week on the show. So got to give it to LWO champ on this one.
I'm obviously running the photo slides right now, so I can't see what the boys are saying in the chat, but I'm certain that someone has pointed out that the champ is sitting down right now in this photo. So that, at least for me, edges it. Benny, do you have any counterpoints on this one?
Well, what's the name of your segment here, Holla?
Who wore it better?
Well, it's a no-brainer. Rocky's wearing LWO. The champ's not wearing any LWO. So I have to go with who's wearing the black and yellow. Champ looks handsome as ever, but he's not wearing any. Rocky is. I go Rocky.
Champ, I'll own that one. I did not get a photo of you with the scarf on. So we'll leave it for the chat to decide. But that's the first one, Champ versus Rocky. Next one, who wore it better? Jaeger versus Gandalf. Let us know who wore it better. I'm going to go to you first, Lebsy. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a tough one. You know, I'm a big fan of Gandalf. He's, you know, got a good pose there. I can't believe how close Sammy looks to him, but you know, I'm gonna have to go with Sammy on this one. The hat really makes it for me for Sammy, and also the staff with the scarf is the yeah, that's the decision point for me. So Sammy, 100%.
Benny Stanch, what do you think?
Sammy's topless. Done.
Topless. Scotty, a vote for Gandalf, or you with Sam Yeager on this one?
I have to go with Sammy on this one. And it's not the topless thing. It's not that he's wearing the original MVP jacket. It's that hat. And I know his desire to buy strange hats from weird old women for obscene amounts of money. So I got to give it to Sammy just for that.
What do we think he paid for that hat in the beer garden?
$500.
I agree. And I gotta go with Sammy on this one as well. You know, he's got the talking stick. It's not the talking stick with the owl on the top that can give you Thunderbomb, but it is a talking stick. I think that's a unanimous choice. Sammy Yeager. Well in. Well in.
Lebs, you look like you finished there.
Oh, do we have another one? Lebsy.
Yeah. Line me up for another Iron Horse.
No.
I'm gonna go to bed at some point, dude.
He knows what's coming. No.
Can't even find it. I'm totally.
It's the warm one. Oh,
I tried to cheat 5 times and I still missed.
All right.
I'll drink another Iron Horse for that anyway.
Let's move on to the next one. Coolio versus Shooter McGavin. I got to go to you first, Lebs. What do you think? Who wore it better?
As you guys saw on the slideshow, like Coolio's fashion sense is second to none. The green short sock combo make it for me. Coolio 100% on this one.
Yeah, that's a good show. How about you, Benny? What do you think?
It's tough to argue with what Lebs was saying there. I mean, Shooter obviously very good, but in all honesty, the deciding factor for me might be the spectator in the background for Coolio.
Good shout. Good eye.
New legend. That might be the deciding factor right there.
New legend Alec in one of the rare photos where he was actually at the park. I'm with you on that one, Benny. I think this one goes to Coolio. Shooter McGavin, yeah, he looks like he's in trouble there, whereas Coolio, very, very cool, calm, and ready to rock and roll in the beer garden with his lovely jacket on. All right, let's spice some things up a bit here. Let's go a little after dark with the next one. Who wore it better? Brem versus the whipped cream bikini from Varsity Blues. Scotty, I'm going to you first. What a picture that is. And for anyone who wants this, I'll mail it to them later. But yeah, Scotty, what do you think? Who wore it better? Whipped cream bikini.
Well, can't think with my brain at the moment.
Go with the little brain.
blood's flowing somewhere else. Gonna have to go with Bremner on this one.
Bremner. Wow.
Yeah, fully torqued.
All right, rock hard peen. Anybody else flaccid or what? What's going on here? Benny, what do you think? Who is this one going to?
Well, I was there watching Bremner do this. Obviously, it's a little bit hazy. I also remember him washing it off by just walking off the back of the houseboat and falling into the shoe swap, coming up with a smile on his face. No, I still got to go varsity.
You're going varsity blues.
I'm going varsity.
I just will not look at Bremner the same way after this specific picture. All right, one more, guys, to go. Who wore it better? Last one. We saw these photos earlier. Montesaurus or Kelly. I'm going to go to you first, Benny. Who wore it better?
Can I call a tie?
Call it a tie.
I'm calling it a tie.
We're calling it a tie. Lebs, thoughts?
Tie.
Tie. Chat. Troy says tie in the chat. What about you, Scotty Rimek?
Looks like a tie to me, but the fact that Kelly Vincent had to borrow underwear for this is a compelling twist to the plot. And I'm going to have to give this one to Monty because he brought the equipment required for this to be worn properly. So Monty.
Fair comment. I think you could be right. And I do believe that Kelly did chime in earlier when these photos were rolling past and did confirm that she had to borrow. So I don't know. I'm going to go with Monty as well. I'm giving this one to Monty.
So it's a tie.
It is a tie. Two tie, they all tie. At any rate, that concludes Who Wore It Better. We hope you have enjoyed that segment. Brand new, not sure if it'll be back. Let us know. Shoot us an email. Let us know in the comments if you enjoyed that, and we'll see if we can do another one. Thanks to Benny also for providing a number of those photos that we went through for the Who Wore It Better section. And so I guess really there's only a few more segments, and we're going to wrap this sucker up. We'll get Scotty back in the stream there, Scotty. But the first one is really around the contest from last week. We do have an announcement that we'd like to make. First and foremost, there will be no new contests, but we did have a contest last week. If you recall, the champ in his excellency and his most excellent demeanor had located an original scarf. We asked you to write us and let us know why you were deserving of this scarf. You had to be a proper full-fledged member of the LWO. And of course, you had to have not gotten an original scarf. So I know I did have some questions from some legends that got a little loose with the original scarves, but I think the champ weighed in and he made his decision this week. So the winner of an original scarf goes to Ryan Glanville. Congratulations, Ryan. Whoa! Clap, 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 clap. Here's to you.
RG, attaboy.
And a big thanks to everyone else who entered. I think when I talked to T Money, he was going to get some autographed copies of The Perfect Day for you. So everyone's really a winner tonight. But yeah, that's it from the contest. We're going to move right along here now into our announcement section. Got a few announcements tonight. So no birthdays as we did last week. But we do.
Jose.
What's that?
Jose, April 30th.
Oh, April 30th. We did announce him last week, but happy birthday. Yep. Happy birthday to Jose. I hope you had a good one. Not sure if you're still with us or not. Before we get into that, Bremner's asked for a grab bag again. So if we could grab bag.
No, just open the bus here, Brem.
No. Oh, rotten luck.
What are the odds?
What are the odds? All right. Unlucky, Bremner. So just from an announcer's perspective, we have two that I'd like to share. The first one is if you liked Benny Stanch's vest, maybe Benny, would you stand up and show us that vest one more time? Because it is an absolute beauty. Fantastic. Look at that, guys. There it is. We've got a picture on screen. Guys, if you've been following along, one of the concepts that I know Benny and I have been talking about now for, since probably the day after last year's May Long tournament is the concept of getting an LWO patch that we could actually mail out to guys on the team. And you could go out and source your own denim vest. I know Coolio's got one. Rimek, you've got one. Benny, you've got one. I've got one coming. Basically putting together either a circular or rectangular LWO patch, get it sewn to your own denim vest, and maybe rocking that out as some new merchandise. I know we've had a lot of merchandise. T Money and Mac have been doing an amazing job. We've got the new quarter zips for those of you who got them. There's lots going on, but we didn't want to impose on this. But Benny and I have been talking about this for a while. It is something we're looking into in terms of pricing for the patch and the feasibility. So we'd like to hear from you if you like that. If you're interested, it doesn't, maybe it's not for you, but if it's something that you're interested in, let us know because it may be something that we look at doing over the next year before next May Long when we're all back together. There's no rush on this one. I think it's something we can put together as we do. The concept as well being that you could affix patches from your favorite teams. You see on the right, there's Benny's. He's got the Bruins and the Vikings on there. He's even got his Canada Fitness badge at the bottom and his swim patches. So you could actually go out and get patches. We don't get, patches for Dukes FC. You could do a patch for the Beer Badgers. So just something interesting, something unique, and some piece of merchandise that could actually stick with you for life, just like the commitment to LWO. Betty, do you have anything that you would want to add to that, or,
No, actually, Holla, I think you pretty much nailed it. Anybody that has these, I mean, there was a little hesitation early, but as soon as we see how they're kind of turning out, we look good. That's the bottom line, is we look good. You'd be crazy not to get one.
I know when it was first suggested, it was a joke, legitimately, because I know I was in the text chat and it was a joke. But then the more it kind of came together, it became something that was legendary, and it's almost as legendary as us. And if I look at something like that with when I'm 70, 80 years old, after years and years of May Long tournaments with the boys, I'm gonna have a bunch of patches on there. I'm gonna get buried in mine. So that's pretty legit. That could also be the beer talking. Speaking of which, grab bag me. Grab
Grab bag. Grab bag.
Oh,
Pilsner. It's a weak episode for that. I thought it was going to go crazy.
There were a couple people that kept getting them, though. I don't know if you noticed. That was weird. It's like a Hollywood magic right now. It's like LucasArts or something. Anyways, guys, moving on from that, the other announcement that I have is that LWO Radio will be back next week, episode 4. We've made it through 3 episodes already. We're halfway through our run. Thanks for sticking with us. Thank you for all the support that we've been getting, not just in the chat. You guys have been amazing in the chat again tonight. Kept us honest on a few things. But also, throughout the week, sending the texts, emails, people chiming in, just saying how much they're enjoying it. And it means a lot to us, and it means a lot to all of us here that we're able to kind of share these moments together on a Friday night. We're all getting together. Obviously a tough year for a lot of folks, but really appreciate it. So don't forget to hit that like button. It's just down below. Do that. Next week's episode is going to be around the legends of hockey. We've been talking to Koski and Britchie about joining us, and I think Team Money might be back on the show as well. I believe so. There might be 5 of us. And the big announcement for next week, I've been told that I'm allowed to let the cat out of the bag. As you know, the official theme song for LWO Radio is Microphone by the Nessmans. The Nessmans have a new single, and it will debut next Friday night on LWO Radio. So all I'm going to say is, if you're not here, if you're not first, you're last. You got to be here. The Nessmans, a live airing of their new single next week on LWO Radio. You're not going to want to miss that. It's going to be absolutely epic. So last thing that we need to do before we close the show is, of course, shout outs. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to you, Benny, first. It's been sort of the pattern tonight. Can we go to you for your shout out?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably predictable. For the Williams Lake crew, all of us, everybody played for Clark. So my shout out is to that's right. Father of legend, coach of legends. So to Clark, appreciate it very much. He's the man in Williams Lake for soccer for all of us. Anybody that played for LWO played for Clark originally. So anyways, very much appreciated, Clark. To your boys as well, to the twins, everybody dealing with the Williams Lake Lightning that has now transferred into the LWO Lightning. Awesome. Thank you.
Here's to you, Clark. And Lebsy, who are you going to shout out this week?
Yeah, and I think just that second Bays era that I described, or the Bays era that I was a part of, I think everybody, and I mentioned his name earlier, Steve Cocaine. So he was, that's his real last name for folks who don't know him. I don't remember that photo, but there he is. So Steve was the coach that brought us from, I guess the year before I arrived, from Div 3 to Div 2, and then Div 2 to Div 1. And was a great coach, great guy. And just want to thank Steve for everything he did for our crew. And cheers to Steve.
Cheers to you, Steve. Scotty Too Hottie Rimek, who's your shout out to this week?
I put a lot of thought into this, Holla, and then I changed my mind tonight while we were reminiscing, and I'm going to have to go with Monty. Monty is the glue that holds a lot of this together. I don't know how he holds it together, but it wouldn't be the same thing without him. Every time I meet him, it's a warm embrace at the beginning of the night, and then at the end of the night, it's a sheer just get the fuck out of there. So I love Monty. He's one of the kings of this, and he deserves to be acknowledged. And I want to get on his good side again in case they come out with some sort of spin-off of Game of Thrones. So Monty.
That's a smart move. Here's to you, Monty. And for those of you who didn't catch my look to Scotty there, stole my shout out. My shout out was actually to three guys who I understand were getting together tonight to watch, while social distancing, watch LWO Radio Up in the Arm. Of course, Monty, you are one of them, but of course, I'm also talking about Dolly and the Beer Badgers. So my shout out goes to Dalek, Niter, and Monty. Hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you guys were able to get together and watch it as a group. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I look forward to when we can share a beer and a chat soon in person. So cheers, boys. All right. And with that, there's not much more to do. We've set a new record for LWO Radio, just past 2 hours. I'm going to get that 1 hour show one of these days, but it's not happening now. But with that, it's all I have left to do is basically thank everyone for being on and close the show. So Benny, thank you for joining us. LWO Radio debut.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, 76er.
You know it. And Lebs, a debut for somebody from Alberta. You've paved the way for Koski.
Thanks, Holla. Thanks, Scotty. Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. Thanks to you, Roy, for the producing. And it was a good time.
And Scotty, my co-host with the Mo-host, thank you for joining us again tonight. We almost didn't have you. For those of you who didn't see, right before we went live, Scotty had to replace this entire computer. So thank you, Scotty. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Holla, and I'm glad I was able to be here. sorry I stole your thunder, but that's why we do these tech checks that I was not a part of tonight. So sorry about that.
Unbelievable. My phone is, I know my phone is going nuts. I'm getting a bunch of text messages, no doubt about those denim vests. But with that, boys, another week goes by that we've been able to join you. We've had a lot of fun again tonight. Thank you so much for being with us. You legends, you stay legendary, and you know it. Take care, and we'll see you next week.